Hello, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty of College of Health Sciences. It is my pleasure to share with you some thoughts on social considerations regarding cancer. Before we get started, I would like to go over some basic principles regarding the social determinants of health. The social determinants of health was something that was established by the World Health Organization in 2010, and several commissions uh, have been put together in order to discuss the details of social determinants. Social determinants encompass five broad areas. The first area is education access and quality. Second area is healthcare and quality. Next is neighborhood and built environment. Then social and community context. And finally, economic stability. What is interesting is that you can delve deeper into each of these social determinant areas and try to understand how these relate to the area of cancer. In subsequent slides, I will show you specifically how these social disparities and how this framework can be applied to practical surveillance systems in order to come up with research findings that can inform further policy. Before we describe a little bit more about this social determinants framework and application, it's important to note some important cancer health disparities. Now, the American Association for Cancer Research is a major organization, and they come up with a progress report. And this cancer disparities progress report had some important highlights that is noteworthy. Importantly, African American men and women have a 111% and 39% higher risk of dying from prostate cancer and breast cancer, respectively, compared with their white counterparts. Additionally, Hispanic children and adolescents are 20% and 38% more likely to develop leukemia than non Hispanic white children and adolescents, respectively. Also, American Indian, Alaska Native adults are twice as likely to develop liver and bile duct cancer as white adults. So these disparities are real and present and are things that need more research in order to understand better. So, in order to better understand different ethnic groups and all of the disparities that are surrounding this, it is important to include vulnerable populations within research. Now, if we go back into history, we'll note that there has been um, historical discrimination and ethical violations that have actually impacted uh, present participation in clinical trials. One of the most noteworthy examples of this is Henrietta Lacks. Um, Henrietta Lacks was a Black woman who died of cervical cancer in 1951. So during her cancer treatment, doctors actually took samples of her tumor, and from this, the HeLa cell line was created. And so this is a immortal cell line, which is used within uh, research and within clinical research. I personally actually have used this cell line for research and in protocols. And so what happened was actually initially without her or her family's knowledge, her cells were used in this research. And even though this has helped lead some of medicine's most important breakthroughs, for instance, development of the polio vaccine, treatments for cancer, HIV, leukemia, Parkinson's disease, the initial taking of these cells were done without permission. And so these types of examples leave a legacy of mistrust. And so this can impede in full participation in clinical trials and then result in further disparities. Additionally, thinking about clinical trials and including vulnerable populations, um, some of government policy has informed this recently. So, Henrietta Lacks Enhancing Cancer Research Act of 2019 was actually passed in order to examine access to government funded cancer clinical trials for traditionally underrepresented groups. So currently, because of 20% of cancer clinical trials failing from patient enrollment, there's been a further drive to include not only more patients for these trials, but also individuals belonging to vulnerable populations. So, thinking about research and surveillance and how some of these disparities can be applied in surveillance, um, I will share with you some original research that myself and colleagues conducted and is being presented at the Society of Public Health Education Advocacy Fair. And this involves the Surveillance System National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey between the years of 2005 and 2010. And so in this research, we were looking for to see if there was an association between depression and cancer-related mortality. But more importantly, we were trying to see if these associations were similar between various ethnic groups. And what we found was surprising because what we found is that these relationships between depression and cancer mortality is strongest among Hispanic Americans. And so mental health affects differently in various ethnic groups. And these disparities persist due to access disparities, um, due to disparities in the quality of care and additional factors. And so further research should guide more understanding of why these disparities exist. These research studies both need to be done in qualitative and quantitative manner. I hope this video has helped guide you and inform you more about the subject of social disparities and cancer. Thank you for listening.